video, we will discuss why building a better Nigeria has been challenging and connect it with the other video that talks about the problem of Nigeria. We will explore colonization, not just as a historical event, but as the root of a persistent way of life that includes dishonesty, corruption, and division. We'll tackle the question of the origin of the current way of life and how it shapes the economy. We'll highlight how a lack of clarity about these issues keeps Nigerians divided, unintentionally benefiting external economies while harming our local development. We'll also examine religion, how its colonial interpretation restricts critical thinking, and how understanding true religion could reconnect us with community values essential for national transformation. Stay tuned as we uncover practical insights on how clarity, community, and genuine understanding of religion can lead to effective decolonization and build a better future for Nigeria. Welcome back. If you are new here, please subscribe and follow us on all NEAT social media platforms at neatcommunity.ng. NEAT is an acronym for Nigerians Engineering Astounding Tomorrow. It is an initiative designed to bring together young and intelligent Nigerians who have what it takes to look beyond the challenges and divisions in the country and formulate a plan that would transform the nation and follow through with the plan. Now let's get into the conversation of today. Why is it difficult, or rather, why has building a better country been such a difficult thing that everyone has failed at it? What can it be that is making it so difficult? That's what we want to discuss today. This conversation is to a large extent a follow-up of one of the past conversations, especially the video where we discussed the problem of the country. To follow the logics and arguments of this conversation, you may want to watch that video. Anyway, in that video, it was explained that the problem of the nation is colonization. One of the takeaways from that video is that colonization, though started several years ago, does not mean an event that occurred then, but produced a way of life that subsists today. You must have known or heard that in 1914, the colonial administrators merged what they saw as northern and southern protectorates into one Nigeria. We explained that this thing that is often viewed as amalgamation is better seen as birth of a new way of life, an economy that features lying, fighting, fraud, cheating, looting, and all the other things you have today. Some people believe these were carefully orchestrated, but it seems more of a chaotic output of single-minded focus of extracting resources from Nigeria to the international market. I know you could be thinking, hold on a minute, that is not correct. Looting, cheating, fraud, lying, and many other things were already in existence before 1914. You could be saying that it is disingenuous to blame everything on colonization when these problems already existed. The thing is, yes, they may have existed, but not at a national scale. The national economy we have today, that features people lying to themselves, killing each other, calling names, hatred for each other, cheating, lack of honesty in business transactions, and many other things as seen across the board, exists because of colonization. Some of the things observed today may have been in existence, but were not widespread and were not formalized or as rigid as they are today. So yes, colonization is the main culprit for their existence in Nigeria and many other African nations. This should not be what we argue about, but our focus should be on how to deal with it. As already mentioned, you can look for the video that talks about the problem of Nigeria to get a better understanding. Before we continue, if you are yet to join the NEAT initiative, please do so. See the link below to join. We need your opinions, suggestions, and viewpoints in this effort of solving our problems collectively. You should also follow us on the different social media platforms at neatcommunity.ng. Now back to the conversation of today. Why is it difficult to build a better nation? First of all, do we all even agree that building a better nation is a difficult thing? Many of us may not share this view. There could be people who think that building a better nation is not a difficult thing. Some people think that there is nothing difficult about it, only that people, especially the elected officials, do not have the will and interest to do it. This school of thought is actually part of the things that make building the nation difficult. People like to underestimate a problem or oversimplify the solution, and by so doing, underestimate the extent of the problem. They tend to forget that one easy way of failing to accomplish a task is by failing to see the problem for what it is. Once a problem is approached from a perspective that it must be easier than it is actually, achieving the expected result becomes even more difficult. So you see, lack of clarity is one driver that makes the problem of building the nation a difficult task. Actually, the lack of clarity is a much bigger problem than anyone can realize. Take two people fighting, for example. They often focus on each other. While focusing on what one person did to the other person, they could easily forget how both of them could be contributing to an external person. This plays out in almost every institution that the colonial administration set up in Nigeria. Take the police, for example. When two civilians go to the police station, both parties end up spending money while the police benefit. The same thing happens with the judiciary. Disputes and disagreements between two people could easily become a source of income and manipulation for both the lawyers and the judges. While these things are often seen as official or normal, it does not change the fact that they were introduced or exacerbated by the colonial government, nor does it hide the reality that the individuals in dispute never consider these dynamics during the tussle. Beyond person to person, or organization to organization, the same thing plays out on the bigger stage. As Nigerians quarrel between themselves, either through individual to individual, political party to political party, community to community, government to people, or any other means, there is an external body that is always benefiting from it. For example, imagine a policeman that extorts both the complainant and the suspect, or lawyers that manipulate clients, or officials that siphon money from the public. What do they do with the money? They would either use it to import product from abroad, travel abroad, send their children abroad, or find one way or the other to feed the external economy. They hardly use that money to start up any local activity that could enhance the economy in a way that does not make it dependent on the external economy. It means that the anger, hatred, fighting, and manipulation experienced here are only there to sustain the extractive economic model. It means that no matter whatever the fight or quarrel is about, the goal is to ensure that the local economy remains chaotic as part of the infrastructure to sustain a more organized and prosperous international economy. The question then is, if Nigerians are to see things this way and have this clarity, would it make any difference in the way they relate with each other? But here's the most important part. Would this clarity open their eyes to see other things? Frankly speaking, we really need it to. We need this to help Nigerians to see how lack of clarity is the major reason why building a nation is such a difficult task. For example, despite watching the video of how colonization is a problem of Nigeria, there are those who still do not appreciate it. They still think that the Nigerian problem can be solved outside the decolonization context. They display limited understanding of how an economy works, often ignoring that it is a measure or a presentation of the dominant way of life. They don't ask themselves the important questions. Can an environment where people lies, cheats, rapes, harass, and loots produce the same GDP of an economy that does not have any of those? Some of them think the economy is about building infrastructure, not realizing that it is impossible to build the type of infrastructure of an environment that features less lying, cheating, looting, and hatred in an environment that features more of those. If people can realize that solving the Nigerian problem is about building a better economy, then they would understand that it is about rearranging the persistent way of life. They would see the sense in the conversation of decolonization. That also means seeing decolonization as removing the chaotic lying, cheating, hatred, and all the other dirty things that are shaping the economy. As we noted earlier, the things that had made solving problems such an issue aren't because people haven't tried, or they all didn't mean well when they did. It is because they have all tried to solve what they think is an economic problem without considering decolonization. They probably thought that the economy is something that can grow through decisions and intentions without referencing colonization. This is why it is easy to see people who say they want to tackle insecurity or build infrastructure or electricity or create jobs, but not talking about decolonization. It is the reason why, since 1960, both the military and the civilians' promises have been centered around the same theme of creating jobs, security, health, infrastructure, yet they have all found it difficult to do. It is like driving a car with an engine of limited capacity and assuming that the problem is the driver of the car. No matter the experience, intention, or willpower of a driver, a car cannot perform beyond its capacity, except it is redesigned. We should also mention that as far as the Nigerian system is concerned, where the colonial way of life that exists, the economy cannot be better than what it is. Instead, things would always get worse over time. But we don't have to let this be the case, not even now that we have better clarity on what we need to do. We are all clear that decolonization is the only way to reshape this chaotic way of life and introduce a better one. So the next thing we should worry about is how to do this. How can we decolonize? You are welcome to share your thoughts. Beyond the Past discusses this, so you can click the link below to get a copy. One reason you should read the book is to help your own mental reasoning. It would stimulate your thoughts, so you can make a better suggestion on how we can effectively decolonize. To decolonize, we have to focus on the infrastructure or mechanisms sustaining the colonization. If you have been following our social media posts, or you're a member of the group, you must have heard that religion is one of those infrastructures. What makes religion an infrastructure is not necessarily that there is anything wrong with it, but the fact that colonization introduced a chaotic understanding and application of it. To understand this conversation about religion, I want you to remember one of the things we said in one of the videos, that colonization did not entirely erase an existing way of life. Instead, it superimposed other lifestyles, beliefs, and thought processes on the existing ones. Religion is a classic example of this. Before colonization, religion had a different meaning and understanding. As soon as colonization came in, religion assumed a different meaning. Today, when you ask people what religion is, you would hear them talk of it as a measure or definition of their relationship with the God or the divine. But when you ask them to explain or define God, you will hear all sorts of things. Along with many other things you will hear, the most common one is that God is the creator that lives or resides in heaven. Inside the mind of people, the nearest evidence of God is one picture or the other of a divine or deity in heaven. As a result of this, they have created this narrative of religion as referring to a church, a personal belief, or a relationship with a God in heaven. Of course, this narrative may have been there even before colonial interference. We could argue that they became formalized and widespread during the process. We must also understand that what makes this a problem is not necessarily that it is widespread, but that it has generally shut people's thinking faculty. Those who could have pushed the limit of predominant knowledge are now left to conform to what we can all see is obviously questionable. The places that could have been open to serious scrutiny are now viewed as untouchable. Any effort to ask the hard questions or open intellectual discourse is either seen as taboo or overstepping of boundaries. Without realizing it, the fracas that often arise from such effort only helps to strengthen the international market. Now, with the clarity that whatever misunderstanding we have internally, there is an external body benefiting from it, maybe we can do better. Maybe we can accommodate the difficult questions without turning the whole thing into a crisis. If we can understand that whether it is by retaining the status quo, that is not asking questions at all, or by turning the process into fracas, we are all sustaining the colonial system. We should be more tolerant of scrutiny. For example, one of the questions we must ask ourselves in this religion conversation is the source and origin of some information we have carried for years. For example, nearly everyone who considers themselves religious uses the sky to connect God. Let's say we know how and where they arrived at this position. Why are they still holding on to it to date? How is it possible that despite all that we see and observe, people still use the sky as the nearest representative of the divine or God? Have they ever seen any divine in the sky? Have they ever seen any writing in the sky that suggests this is the home of God or the divine? Think about it. What sense does it make for someone to claim to be created by a god and assume the god is in the sky when they know they were born of their parents? If God in heaven beneath the sky is creating people, wouldn't he throw everyone from the sky? The point being made here is that the colonial way of life includes restricting our ability to see things for what they are. Every one of us was born out of a woman and through combination between a man and a woman. While this is similar to the other animals, there is something unique about that of humans. Unlike other animals, where the same copulation does not need to happen under the context of marriage, for humans, especially Nigerians and Africans, the case is different. Raising of children in Africa occurs, or let me say occurred within the context of marriage. This means that the evidence of God is not the sky, but the marriage institution. As a matter of fact, evolutionists will always struggle to explain the reason behind a man and a woman getting married before the parents and the communities when they could have done it without them. Think about it. A man and a woman could easily decide between the two of them to be living together, so why get married before doing so? Look up here for a minute. The answer to that question is simple. Marriage is the creation of the divine. As we discussed before, it is an integral component of a community institution. The institution of a community as it was in African economies is not a mistake, but a true demonstration of the pattern of creation. Take it this way. Religion, for what it is, if you study the scriptures carefully, is about the arrangement of individuals into different ethnic communities. The church, if you study the scriptures very closely, is about really an ethnic community. You can see the church as the group of reformers of the ethnic community. The very important message here is that service to God, relationship with God, or obedience to God is about service to the ethnic community. It is about working with other like-minded believers to reform and transform the community. This means that one of the ways to decolonize is to realize and appreciate the intersection between fulfilling the will of God and saving your ethnic community. Just as mentioned in one of the videos before, the bones, blood, skin, voice, and everything you carry do not belong to you. They belong to an ethnic community. As a Nigerian, and indeed African, there are very high chances that the community you carry their blood, genes, and soul were specifically created by God the Creator. If that is the case, then you have a high responsibility to the community. Your responsibility could involve revamping the economic, social, and moral trajectory of that community, or contributing to that direction. Therefore, the notion that you can abandon it and focus on yourself, your desires, or some artificial church may just be a mere entrenchment of colonial mindset than any other thing. It could just be a way for the external people to continue to benefit at the expense of the local, your own community, your own God. This means that while you think you are worshiping the right God, you may have been fooled to be serving some strange God that didn't create you, a God which your fathers and ancestors do not know. So, what should be your takeaway from this conversation? Start by recalling one of the establishments in one of the videos, that we are all part of a whole. That whole, which may be family or the ethnic community or the entire tribe, is an embodiment of the Creator. Therefore, we have to find a way to be of service to our Creator, the one who brought us to life. It also means we must find the way to clean up the way of life of our Creator and eliminate whatever that must have been picked up outside a governance framework. Whether it is lying to ourselves, hatred for others, cheating, ritual economy, fraudulent economy, they all have to be eradicated. Understanding and practicing religion for what it is, as a means of redirecting or reconnecting the whole with its maker, is one important way of doing that. Now, what are the practical actions that we need to do to achieve this? What are the do's and don'ts of the proper practice of religion? Putting it in another way, what do you think you and others need to do to fulfill this purpose? As always, you can leave comments on the comment section, but remember, the goal of the NEAT initiative is not just to spark conversation. It is to make use of the important outputs of those conversations. It will be very helpful to the cause If in addition to leaving feedback on the comment section, you can also share a more elaborate thoughts and strategies on the NEAT group. This can be found through the link below. Remember, our goal is to piece together the different pieces needed to build a better nation. Thank you, and see you in the next video.